Have you been paying attention? 4 times this season, the McLaren drivers asked to swap positions, and 4 times the decision went Lando's way. Flip those decisions, and Oscar Piastri is your championship leader. But by how much? I ran the numbers, and the logic behind those 4 race-defining moments will change the way you see this championship fight. Round 1. Following a front row lockout, this chaotic race eventually saw 5 DNFs, 6 if you count Leclerc's sole. Oscar lost a place to Max at the start, but he was quick. Conditions were tricky, and after tailing Max lap after lap, Oscar breezed by when Max went wide on turn 11. After that pass, Oscar caught Lando at a rate of knots, until he was within just a car's length. And then the order came through. Oscar, we should hold position. I'm faster, but okay. That didn't matter. Oscar ended up at the back of the field anyway, but that would be the first taste of how the year would go. Oscar is told, hold back, don't challenge Lando, in front of his home crowd. Japan. Norris started P2 ahead of Oscar, and after pitting the gap was 2.2 seconds, but within just a few laps it was only 6/10. Oscar asked, "Is this Lando's pace?" And they said, "This is Lando's pace." Keep in mind they were just a second behind Max, so the win was very much on for the faster car. And so Oscar said, "I think I have the pace to get Max." We've seen this strategy many times from many teams. Just let the faster driver through, let them try and catch the person they're chasing, and if they can't do it, then you just switch back at the end. But McLaren wouldn't do it. Jolyon Palmer on commentary said, "McLaren have to swap them around here. If Norris cannot find some more pace, Piastri is saying he thinks he can, you've got to at least see if he can back that up, because I don't see Norris winning the race." They pitted the same lap, Lando's 1.5 seconds away, he can see that Oscar is able to close in. There's only one McLaren that seems to be able to have the pace to fight here, and it's not the one ahead. McLaren stayed silent. Oscar would not get his chance, and he finished P3, just a second behind Lando. So let's tally those points. If Oscar was able to catch Lando as quickly as he did, we can assume that he would have been able to catch Max. If that had happened, and Oscar had finished first with Lando in P3, that would have been 10 extra points for Oscar, and 3 fewer for Lando. At round 12 in Silverstone, Oscar started on P2 with Lando behind. Oscar had mega pace, and on lap 8 he took the lead from Verstappen. Following that, Oscar gapped Max at an unbelievable rate, and just 3 laps later he was 5 seconds up the road. Following some safety cars and some crazy conditions, Lando managed to pass Max as well. But then, a disaster. Oscar would have to serve a 10-second time penalty for erratic driving behind the safety car. His penalty put him behind Lando, and Oscar put the call in. "I didn't think the penalty before was very fair. If you don't think it was fair either, I think we should swap back and race." Again, Oscar was denied, and to be honest, this one I understand. A penalty is part of racing, and I don't think that any team should set the precedent that a penalty is enough reason to switch the cars around. But remember this case. Bad luck is not reason enough to switch the cars around. Lando won the race, Oscar P2, so we won't adjust the graphs for this one. Monza. This was an absolute clown show from McLaren, and perhaps the worst implementation of papaya rules that we've ever seen. To be fair, Norris started ahead of Oscar, and his pace was excellent. By the time they pitted, they were 2-3, and Lando was 6 seconds ahead. But then, a classic racing disaster. A 5-second pit stop for Lando, plus an almighty outlap from Oscar on fresh tyres, put him ahead of Lando after the stop. McLaren even said to Piastri before the stop, "You are free with Lando once he's ahead of pit exit." But by the time Lando reached pit exit, Oscar was miles ahead. And then the call. "Oscar, this is a bit like Hungary last year. We pitted this way for team reasons. Please let Lando pass and you're free to race." I mean, we said a slow pit stop is part of racing, so I don't really get what's changed here, but if you really want me to, I'll do it. This was an absolute joke, as far as I'm concerned, and it made a difference. There were only 4 laps to the end, on equal tyres, and Oscar a second and a half ahead. Switching them around here gives 3 points to Piastri, and takes 3 away from Norris. At Singapore, Oscar and Lando started 3 and 5, but corner 1 and 2 were chaos. Because of a squeeze between the McLarens and Verstappen, Lando ended up essentially pushing Oscar out of the way. He had a snap rightwards after his rear wing just snagged on Max's car. But there was contact, and Lando ended up ahead, and Oscar was on the blower. So, are we cool with Lando just barging me out of the way? Or what's the go there? No further action? We won't take any action during the race. That's not fair. I'm sorry, that's not fair. If he has to avoid another car by crashing into his teammate, that's a pretty shit job of avoiding it. And you might think that's just a part of racing, right? I mean, even Zak Brown went on later to call it a pretty minor incident, which I agree with. Except that last year at Monza, when basically the exact same thing happened, with Oscar pushing Lando out of the way to pass on lap 1, we got a totally different response from Zak Brown. Zak said, "It's something we'll discuss internally. The easiest thing would have been for Lando to just run away with it, and then not have to put difficult decisions on pit wall." In fact, had the cars been switched at Singapore, that would have made the difference. A 3-point addition and a 3-point subtraction. Oscar would be leading the World Championship. I don't believe that the car should have switched at all 4 of these incidents. But I do believe that Oscar's kind of been getting the short end of the stick. In an upcoming video, I'll take you through Lando's season. And having done the research for that, I do think he'll win. I do think that he's a worthy champion. But if Oscar is ahead on the road next year, and they ask him to switch places, I think he might just think twice.